Welcome all of you viewers out in TLBTV land. My name is Lorana Hoops, and you have joined us for another episode of Write the World, where we speak to authors and writers of all different genres. We give you some great books that you should look into, and also some tips for anybody out there who wants to be an aspiring writer. And today, I'm super excited to be joined by a team of authors. So this is Steve and Laura Ranger. Hi, guys.
How are
you? Doing well. And they're actually joining us on their last day of vacation. Well, sort of a working vacation, because they have not only authors, but they have a publishing company that they run, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because I know some of you are like, oh, wait, publishing company? But hold on to that, because first we're going to talk about their books. So I'm going to start with you, Laura, and you have written 2 books alone, and then you and Steve wrote one together. Oh, I know, he's giving you the floor. So I want to hear about your first book. What was the first book that you wrote by yourself?
By myself was Deception.
Okay, and what is Deception about? Because I kind of get this like thriller from the title sort of topic. Am I right?
Right. Deception was born from a lot of lies that had been told to me. Oh. And yeah.
Not by Steve.
That was the aftermath. I was damage control afterwards.
Good for you.
I took all of these and I spun them into a fictitious story.
Nice.
As I was going about this story, a friend of mine said something about the main character, and I said, that's good. I've got a good idea. So I made a major twist toward the end of the book. And anyone who's read it comes back and says, ooh, I didn't see that coming. But I did a lot of research because just the thread of the story, the lies, the deception, was spun from reality, but certainly nothing else of the story, I promise. But I've had readers tell me that literally they had the book sitting on the arm of the chair and they're on their knees in the sofa going, come on. So yeah, it was a fun ride.
That's when you,
yeah.
That's when you know you have a good.
Her daughter was reading it, and she was like giving her chapter by chapter, and Carrie, it's her name, and Carrie kept going, where's the next one? Have you finished it yet? Where's the next one? Because she just really wanted to continue this to find out what happens, and I'm like sleeping with one eye open at that point, the end.
And actually, this came about, I ended up doing this. I had the idea, and I kind of sketched down, like I always did, sketched down some ideas, but I decided to participate in NaNoWriMo.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I learned outlining. That's where I learned outlining. And because that month before you can't start, and I had so many ideas running through my head, I started laying them down in the outline. And so once I started, and I've always worked a second job, a full-time job, that I knew I was limited in those 30 days. My family said, okay, we'll allow you this time. So I paced it out, and I aimed for 100,000 words for every novel. So divided that out for the 30 days. So literally, I was writing about a chapter a day, and my daughter's coming back going, come on, I gotta have the next one. Come on. So, but I wrote 98,000 words in 28 days.
Wow. That's impressive. Now, I've never done the month of November. For those of you who don't know what, I don't even know how you call it, NaNoWriMo, whatever. It's where you write a book in the month of November. Is there a set word limit? Like, is there a word limit that you
have to say that you completed it? You have to hit 50,000 words.
Okay.
In 30 days. You cannot start until November 1st. You can't, and you have to be finished before midnight on November 30th.
And it's got to be a new story.
And yes, you cannot. It can't be something that you had previously started and now you're going to flesh it out. No.
So a lot of it really works on the honor system. So really, if you cheat, to use that word is pretty, harsh word, but to cheat is really to only cheat yourself.
It's to teach you. It's to teach you to write a little every day.
Right.
Really, that's what it's about. It's to help authors. And honestly, I kept thinking 50,000 words was very daunting, and could I really do that in 30 days and whatever? But like I said, I tried the outline system, and I was very surprised at how much easier it was. And it helps you condition yourself to write that little bit every day.
Yeah, that's
a good thing. It's a good practice.
It is a really good practice. I don't ever get a chance typically to write that many words in a day because I have 3 small children. And my writing is typically at like 9:00 at night before I pass out an hour later. So it's not usually my best writing time. But I do try to sit down and write at least a little bit every day. And that's what I tell my students. I teach English and I teach a creative writing class as well. And so I'm always telling my kids, I'm like, just write. Even if it's not great today, just write, because you get in the habit of writing it out there.
And then you can edit. You can always edit.
Exactly.
I tell them all the time, I'm like, you can go back and edit bad work, but you can't edit no work. So, you should get in the habit of writing every day, because then it becomes a habit. Right. We're writers, so we're very creative when it comes to coming up with excuses where we're not writing. I mean, we got a whole bag full of them, but it's really just getting into that habit, that mentality of taking the time. And I don't think anybody should put too much pressure on themselves with that. Oh, I have to write for 2 hours or I have to do this.
Right.
But write. Whether you spend 10 minutes or an hour or whatever it is that you like to do, that you have time for, it should be enjoyable. It should always be enjoyable.
Can you say that one more time so that when my husband watches this, he can hear you say, I should write every day?
Write every day. Sir, let your wife write every day, a little bit every day, and she'll love you for it, and you get that extra dessert at the end of dinner that she makes for the kids and for everything else, and the appreciation just comes out. It does. Well, through my experience, the writers are very compassionate and very emotionally charged folks. So, that comes through in all aspects of our lives.
The other part is once you have it off of your mind and you put it down, then you have an opportunity to be more focused where you need to be.
Yeah.
So let it write.
We still got story rambling in our head.
That's what I always tell him. I'm like, it's in my head. I have to get it out of my head. He doesn't get it.
Well, now we've passed on your info. We're carrying your torch for you.
Thank you. Okay, so Laura, so you have Deception, and then what was the second book that you wrote?
That was Royalty, which just came out.
Oh, Steve loves this one. At least I'm assuming that's what this means.
I love this.
He does.
Love
this book was quite a surprise. I do work a day job. I'm an admin, administrative assistant, and I'm typically in my office alone. I work with a team of about 40, but typically in the big old office, I'm alone. So I was going about my business, doing my stuff, and I dropped something on my boss's desk. I came around the corner to go back into my office, and I am telling you, it was like somebody hit me in the forehead, and this whole story, not just a scene, but a whole story just flashed before me. Gobsmacked, and I stood there a minute and trying to absorb it all in, and I thought, oh, that's good. So I could not wait to get to lunchtime where I could just throw some of these images down that had flashed through my mind. And like I said, I learned to outline by then. So my outline fell together so quickly. And then it was a matter of actually being able to have the time to sit down and be able to flesh it out. Honestly, I say that this story came directly from God. Whether you believe or not, I'm sorry for you, but I just know what I know. This would not have come from me, so I don't know where else it could have come from. But and I'm a strong Christian. I don't try to push that on anybody, but I live by example. And what I would do, unlike other times that I write, is before I would start this story, my feeling was, if it was a gift from God, I'm connecting to God.
Right.
So I would stop, I would pray, and then I would write. And as it would unfold and whatnot, I look, oh, that's good. It's not anything I could come up with. And then I was drawn to the things that I needed to research. And I think, well, how does that work? And so everything just seemed to be laid out in front of me, and I just followed all the breadcrumbs. Well, when it was completed, and really, I'm so proud of this book. I chose just 4 beta readers. If you have too many beta readers, of course, everybody comes with an opinion.
Right.
So your beta readers need to be mindfully chosen. You don't want just beta readers who are going to blow smoke. Yep, great work. That's wonderful. No, you want beta readers who will pick your work apart to make it better. So I mindfully chose 4 people. And very interesting.
Or 4 horsemen.
Sorry. Anyway.
He's having an apocalypse over there.
Anyway, out of these 4 beta readers, I had 2 whose lives were completely changed. They accepted Christ.
Oh my gosh.
At the conclusion of this book, I was blown away. Why? Because I had no idea that they had not already accepted Christ. Blown away.
And if I can interject, this is not a preachy book at all either.
No.
It's not that. I don't want anybody to get that impression.
Not even.
It's Christian based. The story centers around.
It centers around angels and demons.
Right.
So once my
very cool.
Once my lead comes to Christ, she says, well, wait a minute. He told us we could do all these things through him. Why aren't we doing it? So he then says, well, let's take on these demons. And so it's really more like a suspense thriller type, because that's kind of what I write. But at the end, I had no idea it would have that kind of impact on people. And a third person of the 4 came back and said, I've always been I've been a believer for many, many years, and I knew that to be true. She said, but I do nothing for God. And this motivated me. And I thought, where? How? But yay! So she has gone to she's in another state. She's gone to her local community, and she started volunteering. And
wow.
Her main antagonist in this is so typical of so many folks. It's just so relatable. That's my point. She's very relatable because she thinks that she's a Christian because she's a nice person and is a good person.
Always goes to church.
But had never really made a commitment, that step that's needed.
And that's what happened to the 2 out of the 4. They said, wow, we've just never done that.
That's a great story.
But I was very, very shocked. And to prove the point, this was not just me. This was absolutely God. I came under such attack when this book was getting ready to be released. Mm-hmm. Just spiritual warfare like I had never experienced before. And I've been through some pretty good battles. I've led different Christian groups over the years, and usually leading up into it, I would get spiritually attacked here and there, but never like this. And so the one side of me just wanted to give up. The other side said, no, this tells me I'm doing right, and I'm going to complete this. And so I just kept pushing through. We went to a book signing last weekend to this extent. Ridiculous. I was driving down I-75 through Florida, and my tire shredded.
Yeah, we're in old tires, and
you know where the steel belts are in there?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, just, and
well, there was some humor to it too, because if I pull over and I just see the tire roll, there's your tire.
there goes your tire. But it was very unnerving. We're sitting in Florida. We don't know anyone. We don't go anywhere. So we ended up, I didn't even know where we were.
Oh my goodness.
Phone and find the GPS on it to go, oh, we're about here. Okay, this would be the closest town. We got to call something. I mean, it was insane. But that is the type of thing, very serious things that have been happening to me throughout about 6 weeks now.
So we're going to follow up this Christian book with Farmhouse. Why not? Well, let's talk about this.
Anyway, but it tells me that it is, and my daughter kept saying, Mama, there's got to be one person at this book signing that really needs this book. And that's the enemy is trying to keep you from getting it into their hands.
Yeah.
And during the book signing, I had a little girl come up, and my 3 books were out, and she says, oh, what's this one about? And I told her, this one, and I told her, got to royalty, and she said, and I told her, and she said, oh, I gotta have this book. Made it worth it.
Now by little girl, we mean in her 20s.
Yeah, well.
I was like, wait, I'm thinking like a 5-year-old, 8-year-old. I'm like, wait.
So I'm 55, so I didn't really, to me, she's younger than my daughter. So
right.
Anyway, yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
She just.
Yeah.
But I was, well, I'll tell you what, I have twin granddaughters, they're 9. And the one said, I want to read this story. And I said, okay. But, it's a big book, but okay.
Right,
yeah.
So this book can be read by
oh, absolutely.
the younger group.
So I gave it to my one granddaughter, and I looked a couple days later, and I said, wow, you're to chapter 9? And she said, no, I've just read 2 pages. It was the other one. It was her twin had picked it up, and she was to chapter 9.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Usually is outdoors playing, not inside reading like her sister. I was stunned. But, yeah, so a little girl can read this too. But it's a fun story. And very honestly, it deals with real stuff that really happens.
Right. So, yeah.
So make them aware.
Buy your copy today.
You're a good salesman too. That actually does sound like a book I would love to read. I got inspired from Frank Peretti's The Edge of
Oh, don't you love him? Okay. So if you read Frank Peretti, you will understand My Angels.
Okay. I'm going to have to pick up this book then, because I really did. Like, he was one of the big inspirations for me actually finishing the story. I mean, I've been writing forever, but until recently, I was always a pantser, where I just thought, okay, I have this idea in my head. I'm just going to write everything down. And I would get to somewhere between 10 and 20,000 words, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. I don't know. It's just, I've lost all inspiration, and I would set it aside. My first book, however, was a lot like yours, that I had decided I was done. I couldn't make it go anywhere. And then I kept getting these ideas at night. And I was like, I'm not going to write this. It's not going to happen. I don't know what's, for a week. I fought it for a week. And finally I was like, okay, I couldn't sleep an entire night. I was like, I will just write whatever you want me to write. I'm going to write. And I finished the book in a month. And I was like, okay, that was really kind of crazy. But it was the same sort of deal. And I fought a lot of spiritual warfare that year too. In fact, it hasn't even stopped this year. It just keeps getting worse. But,
well, we were heading back from the book signing, coming here to the cabin. And we decided that we were only going to do drive-through type things for breakfast and lunch and whatever, so that we could get to the cabin faster. And one of our stops, I said, you know what, let's just sit down and eat our subs and, just take these few minutes. Well, got back on the highway, and we ended up in a completely parked on I-10, 3 lanes? Just all of us
for miles.
For miles. But where we were, we looked ahead and we're like, what's going on? Because none of the traffic was coming from the other direction either.
And helicopters were flying around and coming
so
down.
My sister's a trucker, and so I had her on the phone, and I said, we are stopped on I-10. Can you believe this? I'm in park. And I said, there's no traffic coming the other way. She said, that's not good. She said, that means a big accident. And he said, well, there's some helicopters. I mean, said, that means they're bringing in medevac.
Right.
So she said, this is really not good. So I waited for a few minutes, and I thought, there is no telling. She said, you could be hours. So I did that, where I went across the median and the grassy median and went the opposite direction, went back to and we, before we even got to the cabin, Steve had looked up on the internet, and 2 people were killed just ahead of us. We would have been there had we not decided to take those few minutes.
The timing was really right around then. So,
But what made me just decide, forget it, we're sitting down to eat lunch here. When we had made the decision, we were just going to keep going. So we got to the cabin.
Is that quick stop?
Yeah.
The subway on the little quick stop. Yeah.
It was. Yep. Because we stopped to use the restroom and gas up, and there was a subway, so we said, let's just eat here and let's just sit down and eat. Yeah. And so
Safely.
Yes, I may be under attack, but I still know who rules me and who protects me and who directs me. So as long as I stay in connection with that, I'm all good.
Amen to that, sister. Amen. All right. So then you guys wrote Rogue together, correct? Well, maybe not in the timeline, but you guys wrote Rogue together. So tell me a little bit about Rogue, and that'll segue us into Steve, because he's been so patiently sitting there, and I know he wants to share his books as well.
Well, to go into the history of Rogue, I'll go into a little bit of the history of us.
Okay.
We met online during a writing game. And at that time, I was living in Florida with my dad in Florida, helping him out. And we connected through this writing game.
On Facebook.
On Facebook, right. And I'd already come out with one for the road. And it was Farmhouse. Yeah, Farmhouse is out there. I was with a different publisher.
And it just released.
I was with a different publisher at the time. And so the more we talked to each other, the more commonality we found with each other. And I had always wanted to write something of a follow-up for Farmhouse, but not Farmhouse. I want another Farmhouse. You know how that is. So
you didn't want a series.
Right. But I checked out some of her work, and I really liked the way that she wrote. And I talked to her by then on the telephone, and she just has a very keen mind. And that was the first thing that attracted me to her. Before I saw a picture, that was really attracted to her. But in that time span, it's like I was starting to form this beginning idea of where one of the survivors from my first book could play into this next book. And the more I talked to her about it, the more she started to input ideas. And normally I'm a kind of writer who I really don't bring to the group ideas to get ideas.
And this game was simply, I think there were 6 of us, and one would input some information and put it out there, then another would take that, and then they would continue the story, and it just bounced around like this. Well, I mean, it was fun at the time, but we ended up kind of pulling away from that
just doing our own thing.
And talking back and forth, and we started this little story, but as the story grew, that's when we said, you know what if we use this element from that character you were building and pull it into this story?
Right. So the way that we finally did it, just to make a longer story shorter, is that I would write a chapter, and then she would write a chapter. And then I would write a chapter, and then she would write a chapter. And at this time, I'd only written a paranormal horror book and a psychological horror book, very graphic horror book. And
when we first met, he kept introducing me as his girlfriend that is a romance writer.
Yeah, that's not correct.
And I kept thinking, romance? What are you? I kept saying, I am not a romance writer. I am not a romance writer.
And we're both very strong-willed individuals, so we fought over that book. Yeah, we fought over this book as much as we loved each other over this book, because this really was a labor of growing and patience and learning, and I learned as much from her as she could ever learn from me at that point. And the more this book got involved, the more I started to see a need, which I had never really done before, for an outline. And because we had to be in communication, it's like, I see this character going here, where do you see it? I mean, we have to be on the same page, so we're going in the same direction with it.
Which was interesting over the dinner tables, because when we started Rogue, he lived in Florida, I lived in Mississippi. But shortly into it, a few months into it, he moved to Mississippi.
Oh.
We would we would sit around the dinner table at night.
Yeah, we talk about our book.
And we flesh out and of course the family sitting there going.
We would have paper in front of us on the dinner table with schematics written out of these buildings that we were talking about, where it's an espionage thriller story, and there's a lot of characters in it.
Yeah.
And so we had to really communicate back and forth with each other on these characters and situations.
And we would name a character.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, we'd pass it back and forth. I would get it back and I'd say, who is this? And he'd say, oh, the grandfather or whatever. And I said, that's not his name.
Complicated more is that these individuals, some of these individuals who were part of this government project were numbered. There were LZ, like Unit 47, 28, 32, depending on how far along they were in the program, if they were still terminated or active.
Well, so LZ 41.
LZ 40, she's like,
who is that?
There is no LZ 41. So we'd have to go back. She actually was the real good one for the concordance for this one, because she kind of let me go my own way. And
I just corrected.
Well, the really comical end of this whole thing is that, if you folks purchase this book, by the way, it's available right now online at all your favorite retailers and also our website. Okay, so
it's such a good promoter.
I'm telling you,
the creepy, icky parts she wrote, and the lovey-dovey, warm romantic scenes I wrote. So
the horror writer wrote the romance, and the suspense.
I'm looking at her, and she's like, and I'm like looking at her, the manuscript that she'd just written, this fresh page, it's like dripping with blood. I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from?
You
rubbed
off on her.
And I got like loving scene in the bathtub type of thing, and she's like, "Well, that sounds nice. Let's kill it." But as much as we did go head-to-head on some of this material that we wrote about, we're very proud of this book. It's a good book.
Yes,
and
it is a wild ride.
We received compliments on this.
So we bring you up and drop you down. And it is a chase and race and
all across
the
world, the United States, and it just goes everywhere.
It's really
it's a fun ride.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's a pilot, and we have some flying parts in it and whatever.
Well, of course we do.
Of course we do.
Of course. Why would we not have flying?
Nope. Sister being a trucker, we got some of the trucker lingo from her. And then Martin Butler, by the way, and was just fantastic. And I sat on the phone with him, and he's basically teaching me flying over the phone. And I'd say, well, this says, and he'd say, no, it can't quite happen that way. Right. And of course, he corrected the lingo and things like that.
So our research was
it really was
detailed. So
we got to the end of it, and Steve says, "Ooh, when are we going to write another book together?" I said,
"Yeah, it's like the tattoo." It's like this.
I was just going to ask you the same thing. You guys sounded like you had so much fun writing this one together.
It was fun, but at the time, it was a ride.
It tests patience.
Yeah.
Very truly, and the anyone who's thinking of possibly pairing with someone else, it is very difficult if you're a very strong personality. If one of you is a little more mousy, I could see it happening, but
we don't do that anymore.
Do our own thing.
Now you guys want to stay together more than you want to write a book together, right?
There's the point.
Yeah, that's usually what our intro is. And if I wrote it, I'm like, well, we're still together. So, that's saying a lot, because we're getting very possessive over our even a chapter or anything like that. It's like, I don't want this to change. I like this because blah, 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 it's going to happen. I'm like, I find a life. So, it was
we went back and forth.
But
and then we pass it and they change something and go back, and the other would be, no, we're not changing it, and change it back, and then the other would change it back. And
there were a few stopping off moments.
Well,
I guess that's a good thing. But that just says how much we really invest into this book.
And you can sense and feel that all through the book.
Yeah, a lot of love on the book.
Awesome. All right, so tell us about some of the other books that you've written then, Steve.
One for the Road, which is not available at this time. I'll just hit that just briefly, because I'll put it out there again, but I need to have it as like part of a collection of stories, or maybe I'll collaborate with some of our own authors and get that one.
Yeah,
that'd be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because it's 20,000 words long, so we qualify stories for our company at 50,000 plus words, which is roughly around 200 pages, 180 to 200 pages.
Right.
Only because the same investments that we make for even a very large book is the same investments we make for a small book. So we of course want to get as much return as we possibly can for what we're putting in.
And unfortunately, novellas typically don't do real well in sales.
Right.
Unless they are part of a series of someone that we have a couple of novellas in our library, only because our author is
Susan. Yeah.
Got such a following, and they do.
And they're actually part of that series.
They
are. Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
So, but One for the Road, that was the first book that I'd ever actually written. I started to write my first book when I was 17 years old, and it was called Mind's Eye. I remember this little piece so well because of the concept and everything else about this story that was in my head. And I had an old World typewriter, and I tacked out 10 pages of this thing. And what really got me is I shared these 10 pages with a family member, and they laughed at the right place.
Oh.
Spot. And I was hooked at that point. I was like, I actually elicited an emotion where I wanted it to be. As a writer, I mean, that's your greatest goal.
Right.
Is to have your readers invested in participating in your story. But I didn't know anything about writing, of course. At that time, I didn't know about the structure and prose and composition, English rules, and everything else. So it was very sloppily put together, to say the least. but real life happened after that, and I went on and did my thing and managed restaurants and stuff like that. So I didn't get back into it again until I was in my early 40s. And came out with One for the Road, and I had it Vanity published at the time. And every single step that I think that writers go through is a lesson. And certainly that was one of my lessons with Vanity Press. And they didn't treat me badly or anything like that. It was expensive.
Yeah.
But it was not an experience that I regretted, because it was an experience. And the editor actually did a fantastic job with the message that I passed on, and it was very detailed. And it was that sea of red when I saw that really woke me up. It was like, I really need to learn what I'm doing here if I really want to take this stuff seriously. And so that's when I started to study English 101 and everything that encompassed it. And I kind of took to it like a fish out of water, which was good for me, because at that point, when I was on like a social site like Facebook, the more I learned, the more I wanted to share. And then people would ask me questions, and I would find out, or I'd research. So the more I shared this information, the more I learned. And then it kept growing, because everything I learned was something I'm like, I want to know more. I'm like an empty well, and you can't fill it up enough. I just love the English language, and I love everything about it. I'm just full of nerd when it comes to everything with it. But you mind? So when I wrote Farmhouse, it was I was staying at the time with a friend in Michigan, and she had a farmhouse that was not really a farmhouse, but it was a house. It was on farmland, and it really wasn't anybody around for like 10 miles all around. And she had these younger people, 19 to 22, 23 years old, and she was helping them out by letting them stay with her and get on their feet kind of thing. And that's where the story was born, because I was like, man, what if one of these kids or Jesus left off the cracker? What would happen? You know, they just started having everybody up in the house. And that's where the actual story came from. And I wrote it and put it out there, and I felt very accomplished. It's about an 80,000 word, 300-page book, so it's a good sized book. And I went to another publisher with it at that point. This is before Laura and I started our company, of course. And it was not a great experience, so I learned from that, more experience gained. But just to talk briefly on it, Farmhouse is a psychological horror. It's graphic, so I do not recommend it for anybody under 17 or 18 years old. It's not sexually explicit. That's not what kind of book this is, but it's got some pretty graphically, murderous kind of scenes going on in there. But it's intricately woven about a 8-year-old girl who was supposedly murdered by her father for the insurance money. And he had buried her basically alive. Yeah. And she got away. And she was pretty much raised on her own after that, because she didn't feel like she could go home. And at one very pivotal point in the book that I pointed out is that had she gone, after she escaped, to the left, east, she would have ran into a bunch of cops that were looking for her, as a lost person report that her mom had put out for her. But instead, she went to the right, where there was nobody looking for her. And that's the direction she took. So that was kind of a psychological moment in the book of where she decided to take her road.
And, as you read this, he draws you in emotionally, that you kind of understand her twisted thinking. It's her life experiences that create her existence.
And she's angry. And that anger is always burning. And she turns 18 around her later years, of course. And she's been through a lot in those 10 years. And so she's not really recognizable. So I really tried to close these loopholes, these plot holes that could happen. Why didn't they recognize her? And I'm really not a big fan of the duels like Lorana. I like to avoid that as much as possible, make it realistic as possible. I've always said that it's fiction, so it doesn't have to be real, but it should always be realistic.
Right.
And so when she actually comes back, she goes to her mom's place first.
Don't tell anymore.
And she blames her mom as much as she does her dad, because her dad told her that it was her idea. And at that point, things go south and things start to happen. And she's extremely, you do feel kind of sorry for her in a way, because she's like a bit of a Clockwork Orange, sorry, but she is a little bit a product of her own environment and how she was really grew up with. So you feel for that, but I really try to flesh out the characters around her too. The central character, her name is Christine Stewart, and she's been through her own stuff in her youth. So the two of them are really interesting together because she knows there's something wrong, but she can't really put a finger on it, and she knows something wrong with her.
Also, throughout the book, you're not real clear on who's who.
Yeah. So there's definitely some subterfuge on even the characters themselves, right, throughout this. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on that book. I spent like a year and a half writing that one. By the time it was all done.
And then was it from there that you moved on to your children's book? Because wow, what a position, right?
I will tell you that I'm really basically, I think, a very nice guy. And my general default setting is happy. So as I was writing this book, I'd like take lots of breaks. I'm like watching Pixar films or something in between it. I'd write this scene, I'd write this scene, I'm like, okay, I gotta like go watch Aladdin or something to make me laugh. Because I love to laugh. And this book, there's not a lot of laughter in it. There's some humorous scenes, but they're more intentional than they are accidental when they happen. They aren't forced, but the opportunity came up, and it's really hard for me to not go to the left of this and without taking it too far. So I'm like, okay, I got to stay focused, because I think all good books really have more than one genre in it. It's a horror book, but it's a horror and it's a psychological thriller, and it's a romance book too. There's love in it. I mean, there's a lot of elements in this book that make this book. I think that's what makes it a book. But no, I did not go to The Little Princess after that. That came. It really didn't come that much later, but I originally wrote The Littlest Princess for my newly anointed grandchildren, which are the twins, and little 4-year-old who was 3 or 2 at the time, and the twins I think were 7 at the time, or 6. And it was just a story I wrote for them, just something I put down about The Littlest Princess.
Where every night I would read to them to put them to sleep, and so he picked out a story for them for me to read to them. Princess
Tia is only 1 foot tall. That's as tall as she gets, and she has the opportunity to save her kingdom, and she does. And how she does it, it's a short read, so I try to make sure it's priced accordingly. But when I do the formatting for our company of all our books, and Laura does all the illustrations for the children's books and puts them together. She does all the illustrations per se, but she does put them.
I put the formatting, the placement, and all that.
Yeah. So when I looked at the thing on my Kindle, I'm like, this is so cool. I've never seen a kid's book look this clean, and the pictures and the dialogue matched up perfectly with it. I was like, really proud of her. I'm like, this looks really, really good.
This one I really did do the illustrations in it, but
yeah.
I don't usually.
I'm not the illustrator whatsoever.
I don't do my own illustrations either.
If I can make a pancake, I'm happy. That's as far as my art goes. But anyway, that's how Littlest Princess came around. Was I wrote it for the kids,
But I love the little story, so I said, well, why don't? Because this year we seem to have gotten into more children's books. I said, we need to have this. It's a great little story. So.
That's awesome. All right. And then you also have more of like a nonfiction book that just talks about all the stuff about writing, right? Like things to help new authors with formatting and marketing and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. What I did was I had been writing these tips and hints and little tidbits of advice and motivation stuff for 3.5 years. And I had a couple of people always ask me, you should put these in a book. You should put these in a book. I'm like, oh boy. So eventually I thought, no, that's not a bad idea. So the book is called Practical Tips for Every Author. And it is those tips. I mean, there's nothing in there that hasn't been said before somewhere in my pages, somewhere in my blog, somewhere in whatever outlet that I had to give to folks, and it covers pretty much everything. It's not hodgepodge how it's put together, but it's not so structured. And this is what I've been complimented on for, which really made me happy. It doesn't read like an English instruction book, which can be very tedious and get very, preachy, talky about, what you have to put.
He is captain of the metaphors. So
yeah.
Throughout it, he takes the lessons and he applies a metaphor so you get it.
Right. Yeah. So I've always believed in that. The A to Z is to put this route. There's no reason, if I'm explaining even like what a noun or a verb or an adverb, whatever it is, that I have to get into all the technical, this has to bounce off of this in order, and then we get to the more dangling participles is a great example, because it was like, I'm like, it's INGLY. That's it. That's what it is. That's a dangling participle. I mean, so pretty much all the lessons I based off of like, how would somebody who knows nothing about writing understand this? Because writers, by far and large, don't like to ask a lot of questions because they don't like to be perceived as not knowing what they're talking about or what they're doing. And I think, and I certainly didn't, and in that sense, can miss out on a lot of very important things, because when you're writing a book, it's largely mechanical. I've said it many times before that bad books will sell. Badly written books usually don't, because they're very painful to read.
Yeah.
So this navigates a lot of that and gets to the chase of it, because of the mechanics of it. You have to know these things in order to write your book. You don't have to be an English professor, but you should certainly have a very layman's grasp of the English 101 rules and how composition, style, prose, punctuation, everything that goes into
Homophones.
Homophones, yep.
Well, the other part is we would really like to see his book in the hands of like high school students so that they can relate better.
My editor, Mary Donnelly, who's just a wonderful editor. She's a personal friend of yours.
She is fantastic.
But there's a lot of these tips that I had written over the years that were, let's say, casual, to say the least.
Very.
So she's editing this for me, because I put it all together, and I did edit it. I don't want to seem like I'm, just like you were together and gave it to her. So I went through and I edited it.
Here's my pile of stuff.
Keep this stuff out, and thank goodness for her, because there's no way that they would be getting into schools otherwise. There's
come back and she'd say, "Now, do you think we really need to use this language?" Yeah, maybe we better edit that.
Yeah. So, and I'm not a big person whatsoever. My books, actually, even the horror ones, are actually very clean. I don't feel the need to use that kind of language. But if I do, then I want it to make a point. You know what I mean? And so, in the casualness of things like Facebook and Twitter and my blogs and things like that, I like to keep things relaxed, so to speak. But the more I became a professional in this, then of course now that's not even a question. There's nothing like that whatsoever.
But she would catch different things and she'd say,
and she'd fix it.
Let's just change this up a little.
Let's just fix this one here.
Yeah. The book itself is more than just English instruction. It also covers formatting and distribution, editing, and looking for editors and what to look for, and
writing
publishing query letter writing. Yeah, just
awesome.
And additional things, just like a top 10 list of do's, top 10 list of don'ts for writers. Do write every day. Do be conscientious of your work. Do keep it concordant. Don't. And the don'ts are really, a lot of them are just motivational. Don't let other people bring you down. Don't let a bad review crush you. You got to develop, tough skin. But it's not personal. They're reviewing the book, not you. How to deal with a rejection letter, that type of thing. So there's lots of tidbits in there, little pieces of wisdom tidbits that I picked up and want to share around. And
Well,
the English language. Go ahead, please.
I'm going to make sure and pick that up for my students next year, because I'll be continuing the story writing class, and it sounds like it would have some useful lessons for me to pass on to them. So
absolutely, yeah, and please let me know what you think of it too. We're working right now into this new school year coming up. I want to host a couple of classes around our different high schools around us, and go in there to their writing classes and really kind of open their eyes to some of this and let them know that it's not as serious as and we got to be like this, to be a writer. No, it's a very fluid, liquid, open kind of a relationship that you want to keep with your readers. In order to do that, you have to keep that in your writing. So that's all I got to say about that.
well, that's good. Let's transition to talking about foundations, and how did you guys come together with this, and tell us a little bit about your agency.
Go ahead, babe.
Okay, well, in the mornings before I go to work, Steve always brings me a cup of coffee, and so while I'm getting ready for work, he's getting my coffee and whatever, so that we can sit down and discuss the day or whatever. And we are very strong Christians, so anything that we would hear about that needed prayer, we would bring up to each other, and then we would pray about it during our coffee time.
Awesome.
January 18th, 2016, it was a Monday, and we were sitting having our coffee, and I told him about one of my friends whose 6-week-old daughter was hospitalized in ICU. So we stopped and prayed this little girl up. And when we finished our prayer, Steve pointed to his arms and he said, "Look, the hairs on my arms are all standing up." He said, "I just got a very strong sense that we need to start a publishing company." And
it's really as simple as that.
And I said, "I gotta go to work."
Save that crazy idea for later.
So I got to work, and he's sending me IMs, and I'm telling you, I am telling you. So I said, "We don't know the first thing, really. We had publishers. We're not publishers.
Right.
We haven't done the create space thing. We just had, anyway."
At that point, I was writing my books. I'm also a freelance editor and formatter.
Yep.
So that's where my dime was coming from.
And so where I am, and he says, "No, I'm telling you." I said, "We don't even know how we're going to get paid, how we would get paid."
They don't know how to get books anywhere.
He said, "Well, I think we need to just make a list of what we don't know, all our questions." Well, you should have seen that list.
It was like 3 pages long.
Exactly. So Tuesday, I leave him with this list, and by Tuesday night, we're sitting at the dinner table, and he's saying, "Well, here's these answers, and it's just this simple, and it's this."
I'll say this before Laura continues on. At no point in our year and a half that we've been doing this, and we've grown a lot. We've got like over 40 authors with us, with over 70 books.
Wow.
And a library coming out around. And we've been through a lot of trials and tribulations through this, but at no point was it a matter of this is too much to overcome. It was never even a question of not doing it or quitting. It was like, okay, well, let's find an answer. The quickest way through this particular little nightmare is straight through it. So let's find the answer and get it done.
And and we felt like, again, that's got to be from God, because there is no way that would have come from me. It wouldn't have come from him either. But
we're not quitters, but it was so overwhelming.
It was.
If we look back on some of these things, it was.
But even the name. So with that in mind, in our Christian sense, we made the name from that, because we believe that anything that has a foundation of God
The
will
penguin
stand.
was already taken.
It will be on a strong foundation.
Right.
So that's where the name came from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now you guys
And
have.
anytime I would say, forget it. Anytime that, what are we doing and why are we doing this? We remember this is our company. We're the servants. This is God. So
Unlike Rogue, and some frustrations and anger, not once have we ever fought with each other about this company.
oh no.
Not once.
That's
Ever.
awesome.
No. Yeah, Rogue was a regular.
Rogue is a daily battle.
Okay, so you guys have a website on Foundations where you have your submission guidelines listed, correct? So that if there are authors out there who have books finished 50,000 words and above, that they can send in submissions to you, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You can find our submission page on Foundations, that's plural, books, or foundationsbooks.net. Right? That's you'll find all about our company, our history, our library, our authors, our contact page, our submission page. We have a newsletter that you can also sign up to that we send out weekly that keeps up to date and has little interesting tidbits and stuff that I will search around and look for. She'll search around and look for and say, hey, I want to post about this. This coming week is some interesting information about Mark Twain. Did you know that the first book ever written on a typewriter was Tom Sawyer?
I did not know that.
Did not know that either. So,
But
I learn something new every day. Awesome. Well, I will make sure and have all of the links for your books, both together and separately, and Foundations, in an article that will be with this video, so that anybody who's watching and was like, wait, I did not catch all of those places, will be able to click on those links. I know, because they're a circus, but they're fun.
So we call our household. We regularly sing.
I was right in the middle of like editing, something like this. Kid running around.
Yeah, because our grandchildren live with us. So.
I'm telling the editor to leave that in.
Earbuds.
Just so we can watch Steve dance, because that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I will have everything linked for you guys, so that you can go and check out all these fantastic books. And I want to say thank you, Laura and Steve, for joining me and being such fun guests today.
You're a wonderful interviewer.
Yes, you are. We had a great time.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you guys had fun. And for all of you out in TLBTV land, I'll see you next week right here on Bright the World.